Hey, what's up, guys? Alright, so Eden Zero Chapter 5 kind of just introduced a brand new major factor that, alright, I don't think it's really going to change the story, like exactly what's going to happen, but I think this new factor that's being introduced in this chapter kind of changes the way it's going to be played out, if that makes any sense. And it just changes my expectations for the story overall, but I still think that it's going to still follow the same kind of, classic story routes that I figured it was going to from the beginning. But yeah, let's just jump right into the chapter so I can talk to you guys about it. All right, so we start off the chapter and we get this one-page color page of this brand new character named Zhao Mei, and she's basically introducing herself, saying, "Hey, I'm Zhao Mei. You haven't met me yet, but you're going to pretty soon. And for now, until you do, until I am introduced into the story, just think of me as the story's narrator." Which right there alone, that sentence right there, has me wondering. All right, if you, obviously you're a major character, obviously you're gonna be an important character when you're actually introduced. Otherwise, Hiro Machima wouldn't waste the color page on you. So, how's this gonna play out when you actually are introduced? Are you still gonna be acting as a narrator for the story? Because right now she's breaking the fourth wall completely. She's talking to us as the readers. So I'm wondering, is that going to still be a thing when she actually is introduced as a major character? Because that actually be kind of cool. It's kind of like I'd actually kind of look forward to that, seeing something like Deadpool from the Marvel Universe. You know how he always breaks the fourth wall and talks to the readers. I'd like to see that happen in a manga series because, as far as I can tell, I mean, at least in my experience, that doesn't really happen. You don't really get the manga characters talking to the readers kind of the way Deadpool does. And I'd like to see that happen in a more serious tone than the way Deadpool usually does, where he's more comedic in it. But anyway, while Zhao Mei's introducing herself, she basically tells us, hey, remember in the last chapter, we kind of jumped ahead 20,000 years, and we saw two dead bodies that could possibly be Shiki and Rebecca? Yeah, for now, just kind of ignore that. We'll get to that in a little bit, and just kind of keep in mind while you're reading the story that time isn't really relevant. Which right there, if you didn't read the chapter, is already a big hint. If you should have already read the chapter you're watching this review, but basically, this is the beginning hint to saying, hey, time travel is going to be a big thing in the series. Which, like I said, is going to change completely the way I thought the story was going to play out. Now, it's not going to change the events that I think is going to happen, but the way the story is actually told is going to be completely different from what I originally thought. So we jump back to Rebecca, Shiki, and Happy being held at gunpoint by this guy claiming to be Professor Weiser, right? And I can't help it. I don't know what it is about it. Maybe it's because he's a mechanic or he's supposed to be a mechanic. But the fact that he's kind of holding them at gunpoint, that he's initially basically an enemy, he just kind of reminds me of Frankie from One Piece. He really does. It's like, all right, this guy, because if you read One Piece, Frankie basically started out kind of as an enemy. If I remember correctly, him and his gang actually beat the shit out of Usopp when they were first introduced. And then after that, after, a few adventures with Luffy and the gang, he eventually ended up joining a crew as a shipwright. So yeah, just the fact that this guy is basically, he's a mechanic. They come to him for a ship, and he's starting out basically as an enemy to our three main characters. Has me, just drawing the comparisons between the two characters. But anyway, he's still holding the Dorito at gunpoint. They're trying to, calm him down. Say, hey, we're just here to see the professor. Is he home? Like, who are you? You basically, trying to figure out exactly what's going on. And he just basically asks them, hey, are you working for Ribble? Now, I'm not sure if I got that name right. I might be wrong. I saw two different translations and two different versions I read. But anyway, this Ribble guy, if that's the name, I guess he's someone that the professor is kind of on the out with and on the run for. Is probably most likely a gang leader, as we saw later on in the chapter. But anyway, they're like, who the fuck is that? And then while everything's, heating up and it seems like the professor is actually going to shoot the two of them, we see Shiki jump up and say, hey, there's somebody above us right now. There's someone on the second floor of your home. And as soon as that happens, as soon as Shiki points that out, he literally jumps up, uses E-Figure to jump up onto the ceiling, and then just breaks through the ceiling, pulling the guy out and knocking him down. And as soon as this happened, the Professor Weiser is like, oh shit, I need to get the fuck out of here. He hops on the motorcycle and just books it. Which, by the way, and this might just be me, but when I saw that motorcycle that Professor Weiser was on, it kind of reminded me of one of those like dual runner things from Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds. I don't know why, it just really kind of reminded me of that for some reason. But yeah, it might just be the sleek look and the fact that, it's actually really coolly designed, and I always did like the designs from the dual runners from that series. But I don't know, that could just be me. So anyway, he books it out of there, and then that guy that Shiki knocked out basically tells him, hey, if you're working with Professor Weiser, that means you're our enemy, so watch your ass. And the three of them don't really care. The three of them kind of just get out there like, we don't want to be involved in this bullshit. They head to a restaurant, they're trying to figure out exactly what's going on, trying to figure out where the professor actually is and who this guy was. And while they're there, Rebecca actually shows Shiki a picture of Professor Weiser. And Shiki mentions that the guy that they were talking to actually does look a lot like him. So initially, you're probably thinking in your head when you're reading this, okay, that's probably the professor's son or grandson. He's related to him in some way. And then Happy kind of mentions kind of a theory that I came up with in my last video, which kind of got me, put a smile on my fucking face. And he says, holy shit, maybe the professor created some kind of invention that de-aged him, but also got rid of his memories. Then we get this flashback to back when Happy and Rebecca were kids, and we see Professor Weiser as an old man there, and we see the two of them, basically hanging on to him, kind of like that he's their grandpa. And when I was reading this part of the chapter, or when I was reading this flashback, I kind of thought back to the flashback in Fairy Tail when we saw back when Laxus was a kid, and how much he was like attached to his grandpa at the time. And I was drawing the parallels between the two of them. It just kind of reminded me of that scene a lot. Anyway, in the flashback, we see Rebecca and Happy basically asking the professor if they can live with him so that they, stay with him, be like a family. And he basically tells them no, and it's not out of malice or anything. It's not like he doesn't care about them. In fact, it's actually because he cares about them. He basically tells them, hey, you two need to leave this planet because this planet is dying, and I don't want you guys wasting your lives here on a dying world. So that's pretty much where the flashback ends. Which, by the way, before I end it, I kind of think that this was the second time we got reference to the fact that this planet was dying. The first time I believe was in chapter 3 at the end of it, when the Urza lookalike character basically said that Shiki and Rebecca were heading to a dying star, or already dead star. So yeah, I'm kind of wondering if that has anything to do with what we find out later on in the chapter when it comes to time. Anyway, after the flashback, we see that Rebecca's still trying to figure out exactly what's going on. She hears a news broadcast talking about her guild, and in the news broadcast, it mentions that her guild was the guild that she and Shiki just came from was brand new, and only has a few members who signed up. Now, Shiki obviously not knowing anything about the guild, like, hey, I didn't know our guild was brand new and already had that many members. That's pretty amazing. But Rebecca's like, our guild's been around for 50 years now. What the fuck's going on? And then she starts to piece everything together. She starts looking around. She starts noticing that the technology and the clothing that people were wearing and the way people were acting seemed to be out of date for the current time period. And then she realizes they traveled back in time. Like, they somehow traveled back in time when they came to this planet. And she instantly gets up and is like, holy fuck, what is going on? And it's funny because she's freaking out. But at the same time, she instantly gets out her recording equipment. It's like, we gotta live stream this shit right now. Okay, so once the three of them realize that they actually are 50 years in the past, Rebecca actually kind of instantly gets everything serious. She's like, yo, alright, so we gotta go. Shiki, on the other hand, is kind of like, hey, why don't you go and explain everything to Professor Weiser, tell him what's going on? And she's like, no, we can't interact with him. We can't really interact with anything too much. Because if we do, we might fuck up the timeline and create a paradox. So we just need to go. We need to hop on our ship and get out of here. And while they're on their way to the ship, when they're about to head to the ship, they end up getting attacked by that guy who I called Arab or something like that. It turns out his name's actually Cyber. But anyway, that guy, the boss of that guy who Shiki beat the shit out of earlier, he showed up in this giant fucking Voltron mech suit. Like, literally, I don't know what else to call this thing besides like Voltron, Power Rangers mech, kind of Megazord looking thing. Anyway, he shows up and he's like, hey, Professor Weiser stole from me. If you work with the professor, that means you're my enemies too. And he's just there ready to take them out. But anyway, as the chapter ends, we end up seeing Professor Weiser just hold up in some kind of alley somewhere, holding onto the box from Kingdom Hearts that everyone's been looking for. Alright, so it's not actually the box from Kingdom Hearts. It doesn't even look like it, but still, you can see him holding onto a box tightly like he doesn't want to let it go. In fact, he even mentions that he's never going to let it be stolen from him again. So obviously it's something very important. We don't know what it is yet. We'll probably find out in the next chapter or the following chapter after that. But I'm interested in seeing exactly what's so important that he actually would go up against the entire gang. Because this gang looks like they are like the big military gang for this area. So I'm wondering what's so important to him that he'd actually risk, being hunted down by these people who have a giant fucking mech suit just to get back. But that's pretty much it for the chapter. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all that happened in the chapter. Like I said, I'm excited to see exactly how time travel is going to affect the story later on. I'm excited to see when we actually do meet Xiao Mei. Is she actually going to continue on her narrating job and, still break the fourth wall? And I'm interested in seeing what's exactly inside that box that Professor Weiser is holding on to. But that's it for the video. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, drop me a like, subscribe to the channel. I'd greatly appreciate it. Comment down below with your thoughts and theories on the chapter, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.